Hey guys, it's Nathan from Modern Rifleman, and today we're going to be taking a look at AAC's newest suppressor, the Halcyon 22. As the name implies, this is a 22 caliber suppressor that's rated for 5.7 and semi-automatic, and full auto rated for 22 LR, kind of standard. As you probably can see, it's a modular suppressor, much like their new Tyrant M series. And it's actually the first 22 caliber modular suppressor that AAC has ever released. So very excited to get this in and check it out. As always, this was sent over by the folks at Silencer Shop, so we greatly appreciate their help on this. But without further ado, as I mentioned, it's a modular can, and so we're going to head on over to the mat and we're going to take a look at the internals, kind of go over the materials and the overall design. Then we'll head on to some shooting after that. Alright guys, so here's a look at the box that the Halcyon comes in. It's just like all the other AAC cans right now, with the Statue of Liberty and all that on it. Opening up the box, you'll see a large manual. There you go. Set that aside for some bathroom reading later. Pull out the can, and it's multi-cam pouch. It's actually a really nice pouch. It's got the MOLLE loops on the back, which I appreciate because I have MOLLE loops inside my safe on the door, so I can just sling this over and snap it, and it holds there nicely, keeps it out of the way from all the other stuff. And to be honest with you, I really wish that every manufacturer would sell their cans in a nice pouch like this. It makes it much easier to transport to the range and stuff, keeps the can nice. You pay enough for these things, so that little added bonus is certainly appreciated. Opening up the pouch, setting it aside, you can see here we have it, the Halcyon. Now, you saw it just a moment ago, so this isn't anything new to you guys, but the first thing I noticed when I opened the box up from Silencer Shop, is that it looks almost exactly like a mini Tyrant M series. Those of you who frequent Modern Rifleman probably remember that I've reviewed both the 45 and the 9mm versions of the Tyrant M, and I really was impressed with those. This has the same look. It's a modular suppressor just like those. So you've got a split tube design here. The front portion makes up about 40%, and then the remaining 60 is the back section, roughly, give or take. But while we've got it in this full-length configuration, let's talk a little bit about those vital statistics. In this config, you're looking at a 6-ounce can. That is 6 ounces on the dot according to my postal scale, and that is also the listed weight from AAC, so it looks like they're accurate there, or my scale is accurate. I hope it's accurate, who knows. But 6 ounces on the dot, and it's a 5 1/4 inch long can. So to give you guys a little frame of reference for that, I'm going to move it a little bit forward there, and I'm going to pull in my PPK 22. So you can see here, if I can keep the can still, that it's about the length of the, maybe a little bit shorter than the slide on my PPKS 22 here. Not bad. Move that out of the way for a moment. As with most 22 suppressors, the Halcyon is 1 inch in diameter, so shouldn't interfere with most of your pistol sights or anything like that. Although on the PPK, I do notice that the top of the sights are just barely over the top of the suppressor. That's mainly just because it's a small pistol, so I'm not too worried about that for those of you who have other handguns. The other thing, well, we'll get to the materials and the construction in just a moment. Let me show you how to shorten this guy real quick. It's really very simple. The first thing you'll want to do is unscrew the front module. I'm going to tilt it up so the baffles don't fall out of the main body, because they're not retained once the front module is unscrewed. Okay? Now, and looks like the front cap came a little loose while I was unscrewing it. Now when you've got the front module removed and the end cap on said module, the baffles won't fall out the back. They're retained in there, which is nice because the last thing you want is, if you're shortening this thing at the range, you certainly don't want it to dump the baffles out needlessly. So there you have it. Now, just to shorten the can, all we have to do is unscrew the front cap and move it over to the main body. I'm going to move that out of the way for a moment, brush off some of the debris here. And here you have the shortened Halcyon. In this configuration, it's a 3.4 inch suppressor, and it weighs 4.5 ounces. So you shave off about an ounce and a half. It's a noticeable ounce and a half when you do this, and you end up with one of the shortest 22 suppressors on the market. I'll roll in here with the PPK once again, set it upright this time, and you can see this thing is just tiny. The PPK is a small enough handgun as it is, and the Halcyon shortened is even shorter than that slide. So, I mean, very, very small suppressor. Let's go ahead and disassemble this. The one thing I will mention while I'm taking the whole thing apart is, and this is very easy, you just dump the stack out through the tube. It comes out very easily because of the baffles. They're shielded. The one thing I will mention about the Halcyon, the thing I noticed at first when I first started handling it, is that at 6 ounces overall, it feels quite light. Now 6 ounces it's pretty standard for 22. It's right in the mid-range as far as weight goes, but I'm used to, or the most recent modular 22 that I reviewed was the Aguila 22 from Rugged Suppressors. That can, if I recall, weighed 6.9 ounces, so you're saving almost an entire ounce here. Seems like it's not a whole lot, but it is noticeable. Now, the Oculus is a fully 17.4 stainless steel suppressor, and I'm not really sure if that's necessary for 22. So I appreciate the weight savings here that the AAC is able to offer by going with this design, and we'll talk a little bit about materials in just a moment. Now, let's continue to unpack this thing. And as you can see, these baffles are quite dirty. I had originally filmed this overview and realized that there were some technical issues with the video. Took the can, didn't realize it until I had already taken the can out for the range. So while they were nice, pretty clean, brand new baffles in that first video, this one, they're a little bit dirty. If you want to see those clean baffles, make sure you head on over to the written review where I've got those initial photos that I took. Those were still good, so that's a relief. Now, while we've got it all unpacked here, let's talk a little bit about the material choice that AAC made, because it is very interesting. There's a whole slew of different materials that they use for the Halcyon. Starting with the main body, much like the Tyrant series, you're looking at a titanium main tube here, a 17.4 stainless steel mounting insert, which is technically removable. I don't have any desire to do that because all of my hosts, my 22 hosts, are standard half 28 threads, but AAC is offering a number of different pitches, including half 20 for those European hosts that you might have. I think some CZs have that thread, and then they're also working on a QD system somewhat similar to like the QDA that you see from Gymtech or something like that. The front module is 7075 aluminum, so that's pretty standard for 22 can. A little bit lighter than the titanium, but also just isn't needed. You don't need that kind of durability up that far forward. Then the baffles are all titanium. So durable baffles. They can handle harsh cleaning agents, ultrasonic, the dip, hops number 9, whatever your favorite is. They can handle that like a champ. Just be sure to keep those cleaners off of the front module, and really it'd probably be best to keep them off the main tube as well, because the suppressor is finished in Cerakote, and those things aren't going to treat Cerakote all that nicely either. Finally, the front cap is also 17.4 stainless steel. So a mix of different materials here. I think that they're all kind of the best choices for the given application on the suppressor. Now, as you can see, there are 7 baffles that are a part of the Halcyon. You've got 3 in the front module and 4 in the back. You've got short K baffles. Oh, rings like a tuning fork. You've got short K baffles for the blast baffle, so to speak, in each unit. And then you've got these longer shielded K baffles that serve as, I guess, the distal baffles in each unit. Now, the nice thing is they look quite a lot like those found in AAC's highly regarded Element 2 and Aviator 2 suppressors. In fact, especially these short ones. I mean, they look almost identical to those that you see in the Element 2 and the Aviator 2. The difference, though, is that, as I mentioned, these distal baffles have a skirt on them which shields each subsequent baffle, or I guess shields the preceding baffles, I think is the more correct way, from the debris. So they keep the debris from the burning gases, from the lead round that just makes, I mean, you can see how filthy these are. It keeps all that debris contained inside the baffle unit rather than allowing it to escape to the tube, and therefore making disassembly rather difficult. Those of you who have an Aviator or an Element probably have had to, at least once, had to hammer out using your baffles using like a dowel or something. So this kind of prevents that. And you can see these things they're not clean. There are a couple hundred rounds to this right now, and they just dumped right out the can. I didn't disassemble it before this video because I kind of wanted to show you guys just how easy it was to take the can apart, even after a few hundred rounds. The other feature that these have is, I guess you could call it a return to zero feature. So if you look here closely, you can see that there's a notch in the baffle. That's probably visible right there. That notch engages a flat. See if I can get it. Yeah, you can see it right over there. A flat inside the next baffle. So that when you put them together, you can see if I don't have them aligned, there's a gap there. And all I have to do is twist it until, boom, falls right into place. You've got that seal. It also lines up the ports. If you look here, you can see the port right there in the K baffle. It lines those up. That's important for 2 reasons. First of all, as I mentioned, return to zero. It makes sure that you have a consistent point of impact. Now, that's also somewhat dependent on how you place the baffles back inside the tube, but by and large, that will keep your point of impact fairly consistent or fairly predictable. The other thing that's important about that is that by lining those up, you get better suppression. I've always kind of wondered, I think some folks have gone back and forth as to whether or not you wanted to line up the baffle ports. Everything I've heard from folks in the industry is that you do want those lined up. So by having those flats machined, it keeps all those ports lined up as you reassemble the can. It's a great feature. It works really well. They don't seem to get stuck or anything, which is something I found with the Oculus, was that those flats were almost a little too precisely machined and they wanted to get stuck. So these work really, really well. Putting the can back together is just as simple as it was to take it apart. First thing you want to do is, with the baffle pointed down, or the cones of the baffles pointed down, drop your blast baffle in, give it a twist until you find that flat, and it'll drop right in place. Continue doing that on down the line. That one found it first try. See? And boom. Okay, so we've got that twisted around and everything seems to be locked into place. Now the next thing we'll do is we'll just drop the body of the suppressor over the top of those baffles and invert it like so. Same story for these. Go ahead and set that out of the way. Drop that first baffle down, twist it until we find that flat. Oh, come on. There we go. And the same. Then all we have to do, drop that guy over the top of our little tower, flip it over, place the end cap on, and as you'll notice as I'm reassembling this, I don't know how well it's showing up on the camera, it certainly shows up for me. It's just, I've just got all kinds of debris here. I've got a lot of carbon, a lot of lead, but the suppressor disassembled and reassembled just as easy as if it was new. So that's a testament to this design. Then just put the front module back on, and boom, you're ready to rock. Alright guys, that's all there is to it. Let's head out to the range and see how this guy performs. Alright, so I know one of the challenges when watching a video about a suppressor is getting a good feel for how it sounds in person. I don't profess to believe that my camcorder here isn't by any means a great representation of that sound, but let me tell you that the Halcyon 22 is one of the top performers we've had here at Modern Rifleman. Prior to testing the Halcyon, one of my favorites of those 22 suppressors that we've reviewed was the Aviator 2. It was lightweight, it sounded fantastic, but it was an all aluminum suppressor. The Halcyon upgrades that with a slightly better baffle design, talking about the skirts and protecting the tube from debris, adds modularity, and then obviously has better materials. So also a slightly higher price point, but we'll get into that in a moment. But overall, especially in this full-length configuration, the sound is very reminiscent of that Aviator, which really shouldn't be surprising. One of the greatest things about the modularity here is that when the 3.4-inch configuration, you can put this thing on a rifle and you really don't lose any performance over the full length. I don't know what the exact numbers are. I don't have them in front of me right now. Can certainly look those up, but from my personal experience and at the range, shortening the can and putting it on my SIG 522 was very, very enjoyable. It was. I tried switching back and forth between the long configuration and the short, and to be honest with you, if there was a difference, it was minimal. This was all from my perspective, however, so can't speak for anybody who was standing to the side of the gun, but like I said, that you really lose very little performance, and in the short configuration, you've really got something that's about the size of a standard muzzle device. So I thought that was fantastic. That would be how I would run this can on a rifle, is just in that shorter configuration. Moving over to my PPK, yes, there was a more noticeable difference. The short barrel of that PPK means you're not getting as much powder burn inside the barrel, thus more inside the suppressor. So that added length of the full-length configuration certainly helps there. Both on the video and in person, there was very little discernible first round pop. We're talking maybe a decibel or two. Certainly difficult to hear with the human ear, but I know that to say that there's absolutely no first round pop wouldn't really be realistic, and I do think that I picked up just a hair when it was on the pistol. On the rifle, very little. A lot of that powder is already burning up by the time it gets to the end of the barrel. So the first round performance on the Halcyon is up there with some of the best. So, and I'm kind of sensitive to that first round pop. I know some folks are kind of ambivalent towards it. To me, if you can get a can that's got this minimal first round pop like the Halcyon does, that's fantastic. So Some of you are probably wondering, well, how much does the Halcyon cost? It's obviously a great performer, great build, very flexible from the modularity standpoint. Well, right now at Silencer Shop you can find this thing for just about $400. It's going to vary a little bit depending on your local powered by dealer and what they set their pricing to, but I've seen them for around the $400 ballpark. So all in all, that's a pretty good value. It's not the cheapest 22 suppressor. Wouldn't expect it to be. There's a lot of titanium here. It's got a stainless steel mount. It's modular. I mean, it's a flagship 22 suppressor, and at that price point, I think it's pretty well priced. As always, guys, be sure to check out the full review, which will be linked in the description. Subscribe to the channel if you like what you've seen. We've got more suppressor videos coming, maybe some other reviews, and yeah. So if you have any questions, be sure to post those in the comments, and we look forward to talking to you guys next time. Thanks.